Welcome to the Analytic Christian. I am Andrew Moon, and this is a channel that helps you explore Christian philosophy and theology. Today, we have a very special guest coming in all the way from Kentucky. We have Jordan Hampton joining us. Hello.
What's up?
So we're doing things a little differently. I've never interviewed before, so I keep looking at my notes. So during my travels this summer, I happen to not be very far from where Jordan lives. And so we decided to meet up finally. We've had 7 interviews so far, so good to meet you.
You're definitely the most interviewed guest I've done.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to be doing for today. So part 1 of the video, I'm going to be asking Jordan some questions that I planned in advance. In part 2, both Jordan and I will answer questions that were sent in ahead of time by patrons. And in part 3, we'll take any question from, of course, you guys. And feel free to put that in the live chat. And as usual, you can just put question before so we know and can find your question. And of course, super chats are welcome. And we already got one from Derek Y, so thank you very much. All right, so let's quickly move on to part 1 of this live stream. So part 1 of the live stream will be my questions for Jordan. So, all right, Jordan, what got you interested in starting a YouTube channel like the Analytic Collective or Analytic Christian? Whoops.
So it was watching some random video by Mike Winger and then some other random video by Cameron Bertuzzi. Both of them mentioned how there's a need for solid YouTube channels that are informed. And I was like, okay, I think I could try that.
Cool. All right. So were you originally intending to interview all these scholars like you are?
No, my original intent was to only make animated videos, short animated videos. But what I quickly found out was I struggled to make those and have a full-time job. So I was like, I think doing interviews, I could do those during the school year when I'm teaching.
Yeah.
And make the animated videos just when I can.
I see. Okay, well, here's my next question for you. What do you enjoy the most about running the Analytic Collective or Analytic Christian, this channel?
I've learned a ton of stuff since starting because I'm reading these papers every week. So I love learning the new things, but I also love discussing it and meeting all these brilliant Christians. So that's definitely the biggest upside. The downside, the worst thing, is just how tedious it is to make animated videos. They're so worth it. Like I see the value in them, but they take a lot of work behind the scenes.
I see. So about those animated videos, so you've done one whole series on the book, Taking Pascal's Wager, and then you started doing an animated series on Richard Swinburne's book on the existence of God. What's your favorite animated video that you've put out so far?
The one that I'm most proud of is the one on the resurrection of Jesus. So that one's actually got the most views on my entire channel. It's over 7,000 views. So I'm most proud of that one.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, you guys make sure to check that out. Maybe we can click it right here. Actually, I don't know. Can you put boxes?
Let's see. Where would it be? It would be right here.
There. Oh, okay.
I'll go back later and put it in. Click right there.
Yeah. It's a very good video, and the whole series on Taking Pascal's Wager, I think is like very good. Mike Rota himself endorsed it, right?
Mike Rota endorsed it himself, and there have been several college professors who have said that they plan to use it in their classrooms.
Interesting.
Yeah,
including me. So anyway, let's keep going. Okay, so you've interviewed a lot of scholars so far. What's been your favorite interview and why?
What did I say?
You said...
Oh, yes, Justin McBrayer. That's right. So it's been my interview with Justin McBrayer on skeptical theism, and the reason for that is that he actually changed my view. Before doing that interview, I would not have identified as a skeptical theist, and I would not have. I saw some merit to it. Obviously, it's a serious view, but that would not have been my approach. But preparing for that interview, I read Michael Bergman's paper on skeptical theism and Justin McBrayer's And after reading those two papers, I was like, wow, this may be my primary approach going forward. And then like other theodicies are kind of just like backups, but this one's the lead guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you in the audience who might not know, skeptical theism would be the view roughly that because of our human cognitive limitations, we're not in a position to know from just our own observations whether God would have a reason. And so that's able to put a stop to some of the arguments from evil against the existence of God.
You identify as a skeptical theist, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good view. I think there has to be enough explored on how to put limits to the skepticism. So I think that's a serious problem. But I think we should all admit that, like, are we going to be in a position to know whether God has a reason for this or that evil? Probably, probably not. Just from our ability to think about the reasons, I think probably not. But for that interview with Justin McBrayer, click right over there, or I'm sure you can just put in the description. Yeah. Okay, so those were the video questions I had ready in advance. Now we're going to move to questions that Jordan. We're talking about Justin McBrayer. Jordan's patrons prepared in advance. So we're going to go to those questions right now. Justin Mooney asks, "What's your favorite animal?"
I've told Justin he doesn't like this answer, but I think he is sympathetic with my reason. Dogs. And that is, dogs you can keep at home. They love you. They're loyal. They're a friend. And there are many exotic animals, and they're beautiful and awesome. But at the end of the day, I want a dog that can, be a faithful companion for my life.
Very good. My answer was also a dog. So I was born in the year of the dog. Okay, that's question number one. And for those of you who are just coming in, we're in part 2 of our video segment, where we're taking questions from patrons for Jordan. And hi, Slaymaran. Hello. Okay, next question from Santi Rengel. Apologies if I mispronounced that. Do you really understand everything your guests are talking about? And what has been the most challenging topic for you?
So I would say I understand most of it, probably 90% of it. There are some times that I get a little lost, but during an interview, if I find myself getting confused, I'll just stop the person and ask, wait a minute, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So yeah, I think most of the time I understand. And in terms of the most difficult thing, this question may come up later, but if I do, I won't repeat myself. It's actually one of the most difficult papers I've been reading lately has been Joseph Jedwab's Unity of Consciousness paper. Yeah. It normally, if I slow down and really, it takes more time, but usually if I just go very slow, I can figure it out. I'm having trouble with his paper. So I may have to get your help. So that would be an example where I'm struggling.
Yeah, and just as a plug, the Unity of Consciousness paper as it relates to the Incarnation.
Right.
That will be an interview that'll be coming up in a couple months, I think, or a few weeks.
It was supposed to be this week, but I asked if we could reschedule. So it'll hopefully be rescheduled for maybe next month.
Yeah. Okay. So that'll be an interview coming up to help us understand the Incarnation. How can Jesus be both God and man? Don't you need some sort of unity of consciousness there? Okay, good. That was from Santi Rangel. Next, Liz Jackson asks, what's your favorite argument for God's existence? Least favorite?
So when I say they're my favorite, I don't necessarily mean that they're the best, but they are my favorite to think about and study. That would be the moral argument. And when I say the moral, there's really a whole family, but just moral arguments and arguments from consciousness. And just like moral, there's different versions of those. Yeah.
And for moral arguments, there's a lot of videos you've done on the moral argument.
Yeah, there's a whole playlist
in this channel. So look at the videos, look for some of those. The argument from consciousness, the one you did with Tomas Bogardus, I thought was very good. The Bayesian formulation.
Yeah,
right?
I thought that's one of my favorite videos on my channel.
So click there or wherever if you want to get it. If I'm making you add too many things. You can also just put
I
in
think my
descriptions.
limit's 5. I think they say you can add 5 of those.
Oh,
so
really?
We've
Okay.
done 4.
So we'll have to
more.
pick, maybe be more careful. Okay, least favorite argument for God's existence.
As a joke, it's clearly the banana argument.
All right, the banana's
if you're not
shaped just right.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with that, I think it originated with Ray Comfort, and the bananas. He makes the analogy to a soda can. So I won't go into it. That's not a good argument.
In the same way we know the soda can is designed, so must the banana have been designed for us, and so therefore God exists. So
on a more serious note, my least favorite is probably the ontological argument.
I see.
I won't get into the reasons. You can check out an interview I did with Tyron Goldschmidt,
right? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna start jumping into some more slightly philosophical ones. I'll be giving my input. These are questions also you could ask me as well. So, what's your view on how the atonement works, and why do you reject other views?
So I like Swinburne's view. The it's like a satisfaction theory, but I am sympathetic to penal substitution theories. And a theory in particular that I think draws those together really well is Josh Thoreau's theory of the atonement. It's called communal substitutionary atonement. And I'm actually going to be interviewing him tonight on that.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right. Yeah. So you'll stay tuned for more on Josh Thoreau's view on the atonement. Okay. I like the view. I'm going to start chipping in a little more. Defended by Mark Murphy, which is very interesting. So on his view, Jesus dies for our sins. That's the atonement. But it's not that Jesus is punished for us. We're punished, okay? But our punishment is the death of our Lord. So when Jesus dies on the cross, we are punished for our sins, but the punishment is the death of my Lord. So one way to punish someone is to give them harsh treatment. And one form of harsh treatment is when your loved ones have to suffer. Now, this might seem immoral, but it's not so bad when the person who's suffering voluntarily takes it like Jesus would. So that's Mark Murphy's view. Kind of out there, but I think it's pretty interesting. Okay, also from Alex Hyun, and we'll do these very quickly. Which argument for theism do you think is underrated within the Christian apologetics community?
An argument from beauty.
That's an underrated argument from the Christian apologetics community, argument from beauty. Okay, which argument for theism do you think is overrated within the Christian apologetics community?
I think probably the Kalam. It's hard to go anywhere on the internet and not, if you're looking at apologetics, people mention it. And I'm not saying the Kalam is a bad argument, but I think that there are there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't think a lot of people appreciate more technical objections going on. So probably the Kalam.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next question from Brandon Broxton. Do either of you, Andrew or Jordan, have a settled view on abstract objects?
I do not. I don't have a settled view.
Very good answer. Mine isn't settled. I lean toward Platonism. I think part of the reason is I think it's pretty clear that propositions exist and that these would be truths and different possible worlds. And it just seems that a truth is the sort of thing that would be an abstract thing. Once I allow propositions in, I might as well allow the whole shebang, numbers and properties and universals and all that.
Now, if you want to hear someone disagree with Andrew, watch my interview with Dr. Kenny Boyce.
Yeah. If I were to debate Kenny Boyce on this, he would destroy me. So I'm glad he's not around right now. Okay, next question from Anthony Rowden. What do you think about Molinism? I'll do a quick summary. So Molinism is the view that there are these conditionals of freedom. A conditional of freedom would be something like if Jordan were offered a bribe, he would freely accept it. Or if Jordan were raised in Africa, then he would freely choose to accept Christ or something like that. And the view is that these conditionals of freedom are true independent of God's will. Okay, and so God uses these conditionals for freedom to map out and order the world providentially. So that's my quick summary of Molinism. It's a very beautiful theory. Planning endorsed it. Lots of smart people have endorsed it. So what does Jordan think?
I at one point would have identified very strongly with Molinism. Thought like, hey, I'm very confident that this is the truth. Now I must confess, my faith in Molinism is quickly waning, and I still consider myself a Molinist, but I'm very tentative, and some days it feels like it's hanging by a thread. And I should have Dr. Philip Swinson on pretty soon, and you have told me that his objection may just end up cutting that thread.
Yeah, it really decreased my confidence in Molinism as well. It's hard for Molinism. You like Molinism so much; it used to be part of your email address, right?
Yes, when I first started this channel, it was going to be called Molinist Apologetics, and it quickly changed once I Well, when we bring on Swinson, we'll get into it.
Aren't you glad that you didn't make that your title?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, so my quick concern, there's a lot more to say, and what I say, there's replies to it, but here, these conditionals of freedom are supposed to be true, not only independent of God's will, but our will as well. So at the very beginning of time, it was true that if Jordan were offered a bribe, then he would accept it. What's also going to be outside of Jordan's will is whether he's in the situation where he's offered the bribe. Okay, so you get these claims that are outside of Jordan's control, which entail that Jordan's going to take the bribe, and that doesn't seem like you're free. Okay, when if P entails Q, you have no choice about P, then it seems like you have no choice about Q. That's the gist. There's more to be said about this though, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, Timotheus, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, he told me I can call him Tim.
Okay, Tim Miara says, how can God be disappointed in our actions? So that's kind of assuming God is disappointed in our actions, I guess.
So at first, this wasn't clear to me what needs explaining here. And I guess as I reflected on it, I thought, well, maybe what he means is since God, assuming God foreknows the future, he won't have, his expectations of us will just be what he already foreknows. It's hard to
already knows what's going to happen.
It's hard to be disappointed when you already know what's going to happen. That's the gist. And I guess one thing that I'll say, and you can come in with another thought. One thing I'll say about that is, okay, it seems like there are occasions when we're appropriately disappointed, even when we know the outcome or and you can probably think of lots of scenarios where even when you know something's going to happen a certain way, it just really disappoints you that it
does happen. Yeah, that seems right. I was thinking this. So there are some scripture passages that seem to say that God's disappointed, or like God grieves, but I think what you said makes sense. If you're an open theist and you hold the view that God doesn't know what we will freely choose, then you can take that pretty literally, that God could just be disappointed about because God's like, oh crap, I didn't know they would be this bad.
On open theism, it's very much like our kind of epistemic position, and I mean he's much grander, obviously, but he doesn't know with certainty what's going to happen, so there can be a surprise there.
Yeah. Justin Mooney says in the live chat, it seems like God could be disappointed in what God knows is going to happen. Yeah, that seems true. And actually, even on a Molinist view, you could say God is, because remember, these conditionals of freedom aren't up to God. So it could be that God is disappointed at which conditionals of freedom are true. It's like, what? That's what Jordan would freely choose in this situation? Darn, So there could be different forms of disappointment. Many ways in which we can disappoint God, sadly. Okay, this will be the last question that came in from the patrons, and then we'll start taking in questions from the audience, those of you who are in the live chat.
Yeah, you can go ahead, and we've already got a couple in the live chat, but type your questions in the live chat now, and we can just put them on the screen.
Yeah, and don't forget to write question at the beginning, and that'll make it easier for us to answer. You can even aim it at either Jordan or me too. Okay, last question from the patrons. James Rebel, Jamius, asks, why do you like phenomenal conservatism the best? Phenomenal conservatism is going to be the view that what we're rational or justified in believing is what seems true. Absence of independent evidence to think otherwise. So phenomenal conservatism, the view that if it seems to you that something's true, then you have justification for believing it, absence evidence otherwise. So this is used for some people's belief in God. It might just seem to them that God exists. And so that could justify belief in God. And we did an interview, or you did an interview with Chris Tucker on this. And there's more videos on it coming out, right?
There will be, yeah. I've already done the additional interviews with him, and they'll be coming out soon.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Why do I take it? I guess it helps. It helps in terms of the concept of justification. So justification, like I'm within my epistemic rights to believe something.
What seems true to you?
Yeah, what seems true to me.
If it seems true to you, then of course. What else can you do?
I can't be faulted. Like it's not my fault if I believe what seems to be the case to me.
Yeah.
So that just makes a lot of sense. It also helps because I think a lot of people maybe have a pull toward evidentialism. And phenomenal conservatism can be compatible with evidentialism on the basis if you take these seemings to be evidence.
Right.
So I think that pull that many people feel, and I probably feel some pull toward that, like believing on the basis of evidence. It's just what counts as evidence would be a seeming on that view. So I find that satisfactory, that it kind of resolves that perhaps like tension you might feel.
Yeah, and there's some people like that haven't really learned much epistemology. Some, not all, but some who haven't learned much epistemology, who will say things like, well, that's too weak sauce. Like, you need something scientific, or you need something supported by a proof. But those views end up in problems. Like, the nice thing about phenomenal conservatism is it explains how you can know that, or justifiably believe you have hands, or that you're thinking of a pink elephant, or that you ate eggs for breakfast this morning. Like, all of these, you don't have scientific evidence for backing it up. What's the justification then? What's the evidence? A seeming, right? So that's a value of phenomenal conservatism. Okay, so now we finished part 2 of our Q&A, where we finished taking questions from patrons. And now we're going to start going with questions from the floor. And so why don't we go right now? Yeah.
Well, first, I want to thank Derek Y. He sent in a $19.99 super chat. Thank you so much for doing that.
That's a lot.
I really appreciate it. That's very generous of you. So Derek asks, what epistemic view most closely aligns with your current theory of knowledge? Classical evidentialism, phenomenal conservatism, proper functionalism, or others? So my view currently is I am a phenomenal conservatist with respect to justification, and I'm a proper functionalist with respect to warrant. To unpack all that, you probably just need to watch my playlist of videos with Andrew and Chris Tucker and others on religious epistemology.
Very good. Okay, let's see. What are other questions? I'm pretty similar, by the way. Actually, my view of justification is really weird, which is what you're justified in believing supervenes on all and only your experience, not all, only your experiential states. That's going to include seemings, but that's actually a stronger claim, I think, than phenomenal conservatism. But yeah, unpacking that actually is a lot of
maybe
work
we can
too.
unpack that over lunch.
That's I could put it in a comment, a link to my paper where I discuss this. So.
All right, the next one, Akhil Palanswamy.
Here, I'll ask you it. So, can you be a Christian, Jordan, and deny PAP? I read the consequence argument. It seems like we don't have PAP, but it seems like a lot of Christians think we have this. PAP is going to be the principle of alternative possibilities, which says for someone to be morally responsible for an action, they have to have been able to do otherwise than that action. So, what do you think to this question?
Yeah, so this week I plan to release a video with Taylor Sear where we basically go over like basics of the free will debate, and he describes the PAP. But one alternative is you can be you could be a libertarian and deny the PAP. You don't. You can believe in libertarian freedom and believe that it's a sourcehood type freedom, not pap. So yeah, you can definitely be a Christian, even a libertarian, and deny the pap. But somebody like Taylor would be a compatibilist. They're not a libertarian. So yeah, I the second part of the question, I read the consequence argument, and it seems like we don't have pap. Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's fine, but it seems like a lot of Christians think we have this. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. You could still be a libertarian, but just affirm a sourcehood type.
You don't even have to be a libertarian.
But you don't have to be a libertarian.
You could be
a compatibilist.
Right. In fact, there are some Christian philosophers that deny free will altogether.
And I'm
trying to get an interview with a guy on that. Yeah, Dirk Peregrine is the name, so you can Google him. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, so I don't really have much more to add. So, Justin Mooney has a question. It looks like.
Is it true?
Is it true that Jordan is a termite expert?
I'm not an expert, but after college, I did spend 2 years doing research on termites. That was my full-time job at that point. And I did publish 2 papers. Many people may not know that, but no, I wasn't the only author. I had a brilliant, in fact, she was the main person, and I was more assisting her. But we did contribute both, so I'm a co-author on both those papers, and yeah, maybe you can look those up.
Okay, looks like questions continue to come in. Eric Sampson, you said you like thinking about the moral argument. I think Eric Sampson knows something about the moral argument as well. In your view, what are the best and worst versions of it?
I'm intimidated because Eric's going to be the guy that knows way more about this than me. So I do not really like William Lane Craig's. When I say William Lane Craig's version, he's defended 2 different versions. One is an deductive version, and one is an abductive version. I don't really like his deductive version because of the whole. It seems like non-theists have resources they can draw on to make sense of, to where you can get objective morality without God. But I'm still thinking about the abductive version. I'm not totally sold on it, but I'm still thinking about that abductive version. So what arguments do I like that are in the moral realm? I would definitely say the moral knowledge argument. I also like moral motivation arguments, like why be moral, that I know Anne Jeffries developed, and
whom you interviewed.
Who I did, but not on moral motivation yet. I'm trying to get that.
Okay.
I'm trying to get that set up. But I like some of the things that David Baggett develops with respect to like the argument from grace. It's like a moral argument, but and the gap problem, things like that. So some of the stuff that the directions Baggett goes, I find those pretty interesting. But I think especially the divine friendship view that Anne Jeffrey develops is really interesting. Yeah.
So a lot of terms were thrown out there, but you can look at Jordan's previous interview with David Baggett. Abductive argument is just going to say God is the best explanation of objective moral values, right? And then in terms of divine motive, in terms of motivation, you might say God's existing provides a good motivation to be moral. If God doesn't exist, there's another question. Well, why should we be moral?
And again, even in that case, it's not to say that non-theists would have no motivation,
right?
But even that would be like an abductive version, where perhaps the divine friendship model provides the best resources for robust motivation.
Right. In some way, Anne Jeffrey argues that a friendship with God is actually a really good motivator to do the morally right thing. I'm sure I know there's much more to it than that, but okay, we should probably push on. I also like the moral knowledge argument, which is that God provides a good explanation for our ability to know moral truths. Next.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, JC05, what's the toughest argument you found against the truth of Christianity? Also, why do you think people are leaving the church in the West?
Toughest argument? I mean, probably arguments from evil. Probably gratuitous evil, and in combination with like an evidential version. Why to this extent? Probably animal, like cases of animal suffering. Yeah, I think that those are all, now those are targeting like theism more generally. With respect to Christianity in particular, I think like arguments against the Bible are the most challenging I've seen, but they're not even really targeting the truth of Christianity. It depends on how you cash it out. If you think that Jesus denied, like somebody's sent in questions about Jesus denied that he was sinless. Okay, well, if Jesus isn't sinless, then now how is the atonement efficacious? It seems like the one atoning for our sins would need to be perfect, a spotless lamb. I'm getting too in the details, but you get the idea. I don't know, in terms of people leaving the church in the West, that's such a big topic. I don't know if I can speak to that.
Yeah, neither of us are sociologists, so or psychologists, so we're probably not gonna. We could just speculate. On the last part you're talking about, I wanted to add. It takes some work. Like, let's say, even if there is a flaw in the Bible, like in Leviticus or something, you need a bunch of more premises to argue. Therefore, Christianity is false, or therefore Jesus didn't rise from the dead, or something like that.
And probably many of those. Skeptical theism may. I mean, it depends. We'd have to see the argument, but skeptical theism may be applied in those cases.
Yeah, let's push on. Okay, what is your view of eschatology from Isai Garcia?
I'm a tentative annihilationist. I'm pretty confident at this point that eternal torment is not the correct view. I'm open to universalism, still kind of investigating that one, but yeah, tentatively annihilationist.
Yeah, I think I started eternal torment. Now, like, I give some distribution, like my probability distribution gives some probability to all three of those views. So, yeah, next. By the way, everybody, these are great questions. Thanks for sending them in. Trevor Adams, for both, what are your thoughts on Calvinism?
I'm not a Calvinist. And I may perhaps have philosophical objections against it, but probably more so biblical objections. If anyone, out of everyone I've interviewed, Taylor Sear has opened me up the most Calvinism. To Calvinism.
Yeah.
Because of how I think I could get on board with his view of freedom, his compatibilism. I'm not saying I am a compatibilist, but he's made that I can work with it.
More tenable for you.
Yeah, tenable.
Yeah, I think I'm similar. Once you allow for compatibilism in, which is the view that us acting freely is compatible with determinism, and let's say even God determining everything, then we have more responsibility compatible with God's determining everything. And then I'm a little more open to Calvinism then. And I'm even open to it right now. So I don't have a settled view on this.
I think Justin Mooney's very onto something here. Universalism helps make Calvinism more palatable too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so the next question. How can we square divine inspiration of the Bible given editorial fatigue and contradictions, or at least seeming contradictions, whose resolution is unlikely, like the death of Judas? I have some thoughts, but do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, you can go first.
So I'm going to use this opportunity to plug this book because it's been super good. Everybody right now should go buy a copy of the book Jesus Loves Canaanites by Randall Rouser. Not only does he address the very challenging issue of what was the issue of the genocide of the Canaanites, but in the process, he really develops a view of the Bible and a kind of broad hermeneutical principle. So the very short answer would be there are two authors of the Bible. There's the divine author, God, and there's a human author. God is perfect. And these two authors can have the same intentions when writing a passage or within a passage, but their intentions may differ. And so the divine author could have a different purpose for including a passage than the human author did. So the human author could err, and there could be a contradiction. There could be something morally problematic. And it's not that the perfect divine author is endorsing that, but rather, kind of like an editor of a book, this divine author can include that flawed writing for some purpose. And yeah, I'll stop there. But yeah, you could admit there's an error here. There's something morally problematic here. And God's not endorsing it. The divine author's not endorsing it. But he's included that in this canon for a reason.
That's probably good for now. So
sorry.
No, that's good. Let's keep going. Jonathan Thompson heard about radical orthodoxy. A main proponent is John Milbank, R.O. Radical orthodoxy. Secularism is a heresy born out of Duns Scotus's univocity of being, in which God's being and our being is claimed to be the same. I actually don't know about this. So
you sound much more
knowledgeable on this topic.
On this one, so.
Yeah. So we'll have to move on. Yeah, sorry, Jonathan. We just don't know. From William Keller, have you changed your mind on anything by doing interviews? If so, what? Good question.
I already mentioned Justin McBrayer changing me to a skeptical theist. Him and Bergman's writings together. And I'm trying to think. That's for sure one. And, I'll mention another. Before looking into the topic of the Incarnation, I was very in the camp of Craig's Neo-Apollinarian view. But I think I have shifted. I'm not saying Craig's view doesn't work, but I think there's advantages to going the other route that Tim Pawl does. So I really like Tim Pawl's view.
Oh, good. And both those interviews, the interview with William Lane Craig on the Neo-Apollinarian view and the interview with Tim Pawl on Paul's view, are both in your video playlist, so you can find that. I still lean a little more towards Craig's view, mainly because I feel like I can understand it. A lot of the other views I just don't understand, but I don't really hold a firm view on any of these things. Hey, Captain Christianity gave us a little...
Yeah, Cameron.
Hey, Cameron. Good to see you. Let's see.
It looks like the last question might be...
we might have to, since we have to go eat too.
Yeah,
so, okay. Thoughts on open theism? Do you have any thoughts?
I'm open to open theism. I really am.
Okay.
But like I said, tentatively right now, I identify with Molinism. But my faith in Molinism, like I mentioned before, has waned, and I some days feel like I'm hanging on by a thread.
So when I first got to graduate school, I was a Molinist, and I was going to be rooming with another first-year grad student named Patrick Todd, and he was leaning toward open theism. And I thought that was only because he just didn't know enough about the topic. But by the end of the year, he was destroying me in debates, and now he's written a book on open theism. So check out that book by Patrick Todd. Right now, I'm pretty open to open theism, just like Jordan. And I think there's some scriptural support for it. But yeah, it's not a view I would hold. It's just a view that I would say, yeah, that has some probability of being true. So.
Justin, we'll close with his comment. This is funny. He said, next week I'll convert you to Latin Trinitarianism.
Are you having him on?
I'm having Justin on to defend Latin Trinitarianism.
I see.
Next week. So that'll be fun.
All right. So should we call it a day?
Yeah. Okay? Thank you all for watching. And thank you again, Derek Y, for that super chat. I really appreciate it. And I'll throw in William Keller's here real quick. Thoughts on divine simplicity?
False.
I don't. I'm not a classical
theist.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.